Again, thank you for watching, and we're trying to keep you updated on what we're working on here in the Congress. Let me mention three things that we're working on. First, I did introduce this week, along with Senator Udall, with Senator Brownback from Kansas, with various others, both Democrats and Republicans, a standalone bill to establish a national renewable electricity standard. This would require utilities to produce a certain amount of the power that they sell from renewable sources. It is a modest requirement that we're proposing, but it's one that we can get bipartisan support for. I hope we can get enough bipartisan support we can persuade the majority leader to bring this up when the Congress convenes again after the election in the so-called lame duck session. So that's the purpose of that, and I hope that that legislation can become law in this Congress. A second item that, of course, was not actioned by the Congress this week, but it was actioned by the administration. The various of the provisions in the health care bill that we passed in the spring take effect. They're 6 months after the President signed that legislation into law. These provisions include a prohibition on insurance companies rescinding policies unless they can show that there was fraud committed by the applicant in getting the policy. Requirement that insurance companies cover pre-existing conditions for children, people up to 18 years of age, so that they cannot write a policy that excludes children from coverage for those pre-existing conditions. A requirement that with regard to new policies, companies have to allow children up to age 26 or young people up to age 26 to continue on their parents' policy. Of course, they can charge additional to the parents for that, but they would have to allow them to be continued on the policy if they chose to do so. There are various other provisions to encourage more attention to preventive health, more use of preventive services. Those also take effect this week. The one other thing we did this week, in addition to the introduction of the Renewable Electricity Standard, and in addition to the new provisions that have taken effect under the health care law, is we had another vote this week on what we call the Disclose Act, and that's a proposal to require that ads being run by third-party groups specify who's paying for the ad. Unfortunately, because of a Supreme Court decision this last year, we're in the circumstance where there's a lot of money coming into the political process and being spent on television and radio ads without any requirement at the current time for disclosure of the source of that money. And we think that's not appropriate. We think the public needs to understand who's paying for these attack ads that are making various charges against candidates for public office. And that's the purpose of the bill. Unfortunately, we did not get the votes to pass it. I hope we can find an opportunity to do so before this Congress adjourns. Again, thanks for watching and appreciate your continued interest.